Welcome to the Authorpreneur Summit. Oh my goodness, so excited to kick this off with John Porter, number one best-selling author in the house. All right, let me give you his official bio, and then we're going to get into some conversation. John Porter is a proud transplant to the Atlanta and Middle Georgia area, hailing from Detroit, Michigan, and Gary, Indiana. The Fort Valley State University alumnus, an active member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, is a recently retired 22-year law enforcement officer. Thank you for your service, sir. That fostered collaboration among local, state, and federal agencies in Macon, Georgia. A proud and devoted father, his daughter Tyra just graduated from college and has already secured a job in her field. Congratulations, Dad. Committed to community service, John mentors young men, many of whom have gone on to graduate from college. Through his motto, "We all are called to serve," he has left a lasting impact on countless young lives. Additionally, John is a number one best-selling author. Woohoo! And his works include the 12 P's of Dating series, Mending the Broken Soul, and his latest release, Conquering the Cave, Finding the Inner David in You to Overcome Life's Obstacles. John also serves as a certified life and relationship coach and motivational speaker with Empower You Coaching Group, making several appearances on various platforms. John is also a finalist for the Own the Stage Speak Off speaking competition that will air this year. And he's also established safe spaces, groups for men to come talk about their issues and have real dialogue in a safe space. I love it. I love this. So talk to us, John. Tell me about your latest best-selling book and what you're up to these days.
Thanks so much for having me, Kathy. It's been an amazing journey. The crazy part about it, the last 2 years of my life actually sparked this latest book, Conquering the Cave. Many people may have not known that I was going through a real rough time, and I call it going to hell and back. I was dealing with 4 different traumatic experiences. I lost my job, lost the love of my life, had several family members and friends pass away. House was in foreclosure. It was just a whole mess. And I never will forget one night I was sitting in the middle of the bed and I was just asking God, why in the world is this happening to me? And so to top things off, my house was in foreclosure. And at some point, I didn't have running water or AC, which could be straight torture in this Georgia heat. So I was dealing with all of that plus some betrayal. But God, He kept me in spite of everything that I was going through. And that was pretty much the last 2 years of my life. And the funny part about everything, after about a year and a half, they actually terminated me in February of this year, which never happens. And the only reason that they gave was that the position was no longer null and void. So now, August of 2024, I'm currently retired with my benefits. And the good part about it, they have to go back and give me my money back from before. So they had to actually rehire me in order to retire. So that was a blessing in itself. And just God keeping His hand on me in spite of everything that I was going through inspired me to write this book. And it was crazy because I'm literally starting over at 50 years old. Mm-hmm. And during this season of the last 2 years, God inspired. He said, "You're going to write a book." And I'm thinking it was going to be just a one book, one and done. I was going to tell my story about me growing up in Detroit, Michigan, and Gary, Indiana, and tell them about my experiences, how I used to be in the streets, and they was going to be called a gangster to graduate. But God had other plans. And I was like, what is it that you're trying to do? So God allowed me to get off that job where I could have time to focus and start writing. So probably about right before the pandemic, I created this character, the Love Doctor, on social media. And this is during the time when, people were still isolated in their homes. And I was trying to be, a source of entertainment to them by giving them the absolute best and the worst advice. And one of my favorite comedians of all time, Corey Holcomb, is actually the one who inspired me to do it. But people were, laughing, it it was going, the ratings was going through the roof, but people were really worried and concerned. They wanted to hear the good stuff. And so I started putting out more information about dating, more positive relationship advice. And as a result, my first book, The 12 P's of Dating, came from that. As a result, I was at a prom, my little cousin's prom. And the crazy part about it, I've noticed how these young people, they don't interact with each other because they have their phones stuck in their hands. So they're lacking the social skills to, really interact with each other. So that inspired me to write my second book, The 12 P's of Dating for Young Adults, which is geared toward high school juniors and seniors and college students. And as fate would have it, during the process of me writing the first book, 12 P's of Dating, I met the love of my life. And, as life happens, we ended up breaking up. So I started to process and I started to heal. And I took the time out to really work on myself to try to figure out why things went the way they went. And it inspired me to write that third book called Mending the Broken Soul. And I wanted it to be a guide to help people get through their season of breakup. And because especially those of us who are over 40, because I don't want to minimize the pain of people having heartbreak as teenagers or young adults in their 20s and 30s, but it hits a little bit differently once you're 40 because you've already established a life for this person. You possibly were married to this person. You had dreams and visions that this was the person that you were going to spend the rest of your life with. And it hurts and it stings a little bit different. So that book, Mending the Broken Soul, came out of that. And during the whole, everything that was going on with us and everything that I was dealing with prompted this latest book called Conquering the Cave. And I really want to reach out to the people and let them know and give them hope, because in spite of everything that was going on, I never lost my joy, I never lost my peace, and I never lost my faith in God, because I knew He was going to keep me, and I knew things were going to get better. I just didn't know when.
Yeah.
And the funny part about it, everybody said, well, it had to be a breaking point where you were getting ready to quit. There's no quitting. My family, it's in my DNA. We're not quitters. We're going to see this thing through. Whatever happens, going to happen, and we're going to keep it pushing. And people are watching to see how you navigate through these things. You get on and you do your inspirational quotes, and we want to see if you actually living this life. So one thing I pride myself, I've been a little bit, but I didn't break. And I just kept on fighting, kept on pushing, kept on pressing until God was like, hey, enough is enough. You job well done. Now we can go on with this next season of your life. And I'm super duper excited because it seems like it's just been blessing after blessing after blessing after blessing. Number one best-selling author.
Yeah.
coming out of my cave, coming out of that pit. Different speaking engagements. It's just been unreal, and I have truly, truly been enjoying the ride.
I have to say, 81% of people surveyed say they want to write a book. Less than 5% ever do. And it's not for the faint of heart. It's
right.
Not something you just wake up one day and go, hey, why not? Like that's not how this works. I'm sorry. I wish it was.
Right.
It's not. Rewarding on the other side for sure, but it's not for the faint of heart. And you wrote 4 books in the midst of all that you were going through. Like
Yes.
you were giving and pouring into other people and entertaining other people in the midst of the worst that you were going through. And
Right.
then you went on to do it again and wrote another book and went on to do it again and wrote another book. And now I met you when there was like light at the end of the tunnel. I've known you
Right.
for a few months now. And
Right.
so I got to meet you like after most of those books were finished, and you're like, there's light at the end of the tunnel. I see it and it's paying off.
And it's
Man,
not a train.
I don't
There,
know how you did that. That's amazing.
listen, it's all God. I can't
Mm,
take any
mm,
credit of it, credit for it.
mhm,
One thing I will say, these last 2 years, it took me about a year and a half to figure this out. That
mm,
these last 2 years wasn't even about me.
mm.
I was the vessel that God chose to allow all of these things to happen
Yeah,
so I could be a blessing to other people and tell people my story.
yeah.
And once you realize that it's not about you, things become a little bit easier.
Hmm.
And like I said, I just had to keep on pushing and pressing and fighting because I knew, trouble don't last always, and
Mm.
I knew that joy was going to eventually come one morning.
Yeah. And you didn't just make it through it. Like you were thriving and building. And now you've launched this latest book, which I absolutely adore, and became a bestseller just days
Yes,
ago. Number one
yes,
seller in what was it? Six categories, something like that.
seven
Seven
categories.
categories. And then of course it was climbing the charts in other categories. And you have people in Brazil and the UK, Japan, and Australia reading your book. Like amazing. Like that's
That's
just a
pretty
couple of
cool,
days impact.
right?
Imagine like in the next 6 months to a year, how many people you're going to reach globally, and leveraging this book to do all that's coming next for you, because now it's like I'm watching it. You are being catapulted into your future. Everything, all the work that you've been doing is now going to like catapult you. So, what are you focused on right now? What are you growing and working on? What is it that gets you up in the morning and makes your heart beat a little faster? What are you doing?
The main thing is knowing that this is part of my assignment that God has for me,
Mm,
and you know, I have so much that I want to do, but I have to be also cognizant of what He wants me to do.
mm,
And one of the things that I'm working on now, and that's why I've been spending a lot of time back in Detroit, I'm trying to establish safe spaces for men
mm,
because men, we tend to I'm okay ourselves in the grave. And, we refuse to get help. We refuse to go to therapy. And we just keep on pushing and pushing. And we wonder why the women are outliving the men by 10 to 15 years. Because guess what? You all are going to therapy. You all have safe spaces to go talk talk your problems over. And
mm,
so my main thing, well, one of the main things is creating safe spaces for men, and I want to have licensed counselors, licensed therapists, and life coaches there. And we're going to meet monthly and we're going to talk about different things. And if you need some sort of therapy or you need a referral for counseling, it's going to be in house. So, what we're trying to do is establish healthy, healed, and whole men so they can be the men that God created them to be. And that was one of the reasons of this book,
mm,
because starting over at 50, a lot of times most men wouldn't know how to navigate through this season because a lot of some men are built like me and gonna fight their way through, but there's some people that I'm called to that's not, and I need to be able to be there for them so I can help lift them up so they can pull themselves up out of the pit or the cave that they're in. So that's one of the things that I'm hoping that this book allows me to do, and just be a blessing to the people that I'm called to. And one thing that I've never done anything because, like I said, 22 years of law enforcement experience. I never, been in it for the money. And I've always been a firm believer, if you put ministry first and you put God first, God is going to take care of you and blessings are going to chase you down. Yeah. So for me, it's all about people. It's all about the community and establishing something, my legacy. So when I'm not here, my daughter and her children to be able to do something with it and carry the torch. Kind of like, my mom did. My mom was a guru of education back home in Indiana and Michigan. And, everybody looked up to my mom. My dad was a union rep for General Motors and Inland Steel. And he was involved in politics. He was part of the NAACP, helped 5 different mayors get elected in Chicago, Cleveland, Gary, Detroit, and San Francisco. So he was big and heavy in politics. So a lot of that kind of is in my DNA, is, being in the community and being an advocate for people who can't advocate for themselves. And so that is why, one of the reasons why I wrote this book, just to be a blessing and help people that I'm called to in the community.
And I have to say thank you, like on behalf of women, and I think the men would say so too, but I definitely can speak on behalf of some women. Thank you, because men don't get enough support. They aren't, it seems, I'll say from an outside perspective, it seems that they're not eager to jump to get help, and it's not readily available, it seems. So like you being right there, like serving it up on a silver platter, hey guys, we can have a conversation. Like that's huge. And being able to support men in this transition, because I'll tell you, I come from the other side of that coin. Divorced at 50 as a woman. And so now I'm seeing all these single men my same age. And it's interesting. What is it? 80% of divorce is initiated by women. And
77%, yep.
Yeah. And then the men, they often seem almost shell-shocked. Like, wait, what happened? That, they're like surprised. And then the result of that, the men that I see that are single, it's like they're either bitter or they're sad, or like they don't readily have stuff available because they're just like in such trauma, I would say. Like you're talking about, I think there are a lot of men who are having that kind of moment that you had where you said you're sitting in bed and they're like all these things around you are just crumbling, your job and your home and no AC in Atlanta. They call it hot Atlanta for a reason, man.
Exactly.
No AC.
Exactly.
So I think that there are probably a lot of men in that boat. And for you to be a beacon of hope and a path for them to go to, like that's amazing. So thank you for that work. And I hope that this message reaches a lot of people who know men that need this message. So entrepreneurs, this message may be for you, or it may be for someone you care about, or it may be for a total stranger, because I personally haven't seen a lot of this kind of support for men, but I know that it's very needed. So
and the crazy part about it is it's limited, but there are resources. We just have to get the men to actively go. And because a lot of times men, we hold stuff in and we internalize stuff. And if we're dealing with something, we don't want to tell anybody. And that was one of the things that I said that I was going to do in this book. I'm going to be transparent and I'm going to tell the truth and I'm going to tell my story. People's lives are dependent on your transparency when you're telling your story. People don't want this cookie cutter answer. They want to know, how can I get through this? How can I survive this? What is it that I can do to make me better? So that's why I was like, listen, I'm telling my story and I'm not worrying about, I freed myself up of people's opinions a long time ago. I don't care what people think about me, because they're going to talk whether you're doing good, bad, indifferent. So you might as well do what you're going to do anyway, because they're going to talk. And I wasn't worried about, people were saying that, even some of my family members were saying, well, why are you putting that in your book? And why not? It's a part of my testimony.
Yeah.
So what, my house is in foreclosure. One thing about it, if your house is in foreclosure, people are going to know anyway, because it's going to be in the newspaper. So it's no secret anyway. But to God be the glory. I survived that storm, and I just have an obligation to be a blessing to the people that I'm called to.
Well, and I'll tell you, here's the thing, being visible, vulnerable, and authentic is really what people want. It is what we
Right,
want because, like, when we read or hear about or see somebody that seems perfect and there's like a miss and a disconnect of like, oh, but
right.
they don't understand, they don't get it. But when we find out that, oh, they've been through foreclosure, they've been through hard times, they have had no AC in Hotlanta.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
It's
mm-hmm.
like, oh,
Right,
he gets it. He's been, oh, I don't feel so bad. I don't feel so hopeless. I don't feel so alone because he has been through this. And if
right,
he can overcome it and he can overcome that, well, I can certainly do it. I just need to ask him how. And that's the
right.
great part because now you're giving them the how. I love that. Yeah.
Yes,
All right.
yes.
So I know that you were able to write these books. It blows my mind just a little bit because I see so many people struggle when things are good to even get their book done, let alone do it when there's a challenge. So tell me, what are some of the results that you've seen from getting your books done and especially from being a best-selling author? I mean, I know it's just still fresh, but what results have you seen from being a published author and a best-selling author?
It's been nothing short of amazing. I remember um, when you had said that it was people in Brazil and Australia and Japan I was reading about book, it just blew me away. There's something that I decided to write in the wee hours of the morning because I always my style is a little unorthodox, and I do most of my writing from 3 to about 6 o'clock in the morning because that's when sometimes those fresh ideas hit me. I keep a journal next to my bed, I keep a notepad, and I keep my iPhone ready just in case something hits me. But just to hear people from other countries reading my book, that 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 to me is absolutely amazing. And I will say this about the first book that I wrote, The 12 P's of Dating. I had a couple actually get married. They actually she was a close friend of mine, and she was just tired of just randomly dating.
Mm.
And she was like, well, JP, listen, I'm gonna get the book. I said, here's what you do. The guy that you're dating, you all go through the book together, read it together, and apply it to real life because there's different exercises in the book that you can do as a couple. They did the work and now they're married.
Mm.
So just to see that my book and my influence and my insight and my wisdom had a part to them playing and getting married, beautiful.
I love
Even though I experienced heartbreak, but
that.
it still is a blessing, to see other people do it. And even in my instance, it wasn't a bad thing. It was just the timing of everything was all wrong. And you can't help time, and you can't help when God moves, and God, like I said, God brings people to you, and also God takes away. And you just have to accept what it is and move on.
And relationships are complicated because it's two people. There's only
Right,
so much you can do about yourself. And then whatever they do, they do. Like, there's only so
right,
much you can do.
right. And
It,
she tried her best to hang in there, but with everything that I was dealing with and juggling, even though I didn't, it didn't affect her. Her watching me go through it affected her.
oh, absolutely.
So
Absolutely. Guarantee it. Yep.
it was the timing was off.
Yeah.
And who knows what may happen or what the future may hold. I
Mm.
know right now I'm solely focused on my assignment at hand
Mm.
and getting to the people that need me and need my help.
And that's the way it happens best. I swear, like the things will just show up because you're available for it and you're not trying. When we try,
Right,
sometimes that's the worst. But when you just, especially when you know you're on assignment, when you know you need to get that book done, when you know you need to get that course done, when you know you need to make that available to people, when you're on a mission to help others, like that's when all the good stuff really happens. I love
You're
it.
absolutely right.
I love it. I want to ask you finally, for any entrepreneurs who might be listening who are at the beginning of their journey and they're struggling to get that book done, do you have any advice for them to push through and help them get their book done?
Get it done. Just
Yes.
get to writing. I don't care. And it's funny because I've actually had a few people reaching out to me asking me, well, what is it that you do? And I always tell people, everybody has a story to tell.
Mhm.
Everybody has a book in them.
Right.
But you just have to, what the blessing with me was I had nothing but time because God took me off of the job. So I had nothing but time to really just be in my thoughts and write. But how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You just have to start, get a journal. Whatever it is that you think that you want to write about, just go ahead and just start writing. Go ahead and develop an outline on what it is that you want to talk about. Give yourself an introduction. And it goes back, it goes back to grade school. You get yourself an introduction, the body, and the conclusion. And just get to writing. And then, once you get that far, you start developing the chapters. I always say most good books have anywhere from 8 to 10 chapters. And, it just depends on what you're talking about and what your book is about. But just take the initial step to just start writing. That's and once you start writing, and I know a lot of people, work, set aside maybe an hour or two per day, or 2 to 4 hours during the weekend, and just take time out and just get your thoughts together and go somewhere peaceful, go somewhere quiet where you can concentrate and just write and be in your feelings. Just take the first step and write. Just get started.
I love it. Yes. Just get started and keep pushing through. Keep pushing.
Yeah. And believe it or not, it may not make sense because I know, and if I had time, I would go get my notepad because I would have notes up here, and it would look like organized chaos.
Yeah.
But I still knew what it was, and I still knew exactly where it was going to go while I was writing. So just main thing is just getting started and just writing.
Good advice. So how can we stay in touch with you? And I know you have a really amazing free gift. I think it's kind of like, wow, I can't believe you're giving that away, but what
Yeah.
is the free gift you're giving and how can we stay in touch with you?
You can reach me on Facebook at John Porter. You can reach me on Instagram at official John Porter. And the free gift that I'm giving away is a free 30-minute discovery call to see where you at. So if you all need any services for life coach, relationship, or even if you need help getting started with your book, let me know. Free 30-minute discovery call. You can email me at empowerucoachinggroup or johnporterempowers.com.
And we'll have those linked as well so that you guys can easily, just click the link, copy and paste, something like that. So yeah, thank you. That's very generous, very, very generous, John. And I'm so excited about the work you're doing. And I'm so excited to see what you're going to do to leverage this book because like the possibilities are endless. And I
Right.
just love what you're doing so far. Can't wait to see. We're going to have this conversation again in 6 months, check in
Yes,
and see
ma'am.
where you're at and all that's happened. I'm so excited for you. So thank you so much
And
for
my brothers, my men, if
yes.
you need me, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Let me talk to you for 30 minutes to see exactly what your needs are. Because I really, 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 nothing against my women. Women are usually okay. Y'all always sort and figure stuff out. But I need to work and get with my men. So use those 30 minutes and then use that free discovery call to get what you need.
Absolutely. And women, if you happen to be listening or anyone else, like maybe it's not for you, but maybe it's for somebody know
Right.
well or don't know well that needs this, like for real. Because I don't know, like men, are you okay? Like it doesn't seem like it. And I think men need men. Men need good men to guide them and help them, because it seems like a lot of men are just not doing well right now.
Right.
Like you guys are powering through stuff, but really like the happiness and stuff, I want you to have all that we have access to too. And
Right.
coaching is fantastic.
Yes.
Therapy, great. Like I just can't wait to see what you're going to be doing. I'm so excited for this. So thank you for your generous gift, and thank you for
Thank
your
you.
time. And thank you for being here. I hope you have a good day.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.